Hello and welcome. Today I want to talk about something that often makes adults uncomfortable, especially parents. Questioning. Not rebellion, not disrespect, but questioning. There comes a quiet turning point in a child's life. It doesn't arrive with an announcement. There are no visible milestones, no ceremonies to mark its beginning. But if we are attentive, we begin to notice in the questions that they ask. Until now, their questions were simple, almost rhythmic. What is this? How does it work? What happens if I do this? And then something shifts. The questions deepen. They stretch beyond the visible world and begin to touch something more subtle, more complex. They ask, why is it done this way? Who decided this? Does this make sense? And sometimes, with a quiet intensity, do I agree with this at all? For many parents, this phase may feel unsettling because the tone changes. The certainty we once held as guides begins to feel questioned. And without even realizing it, we often respond not to the question itself, but to the discomfort it awakens in us. We hear defiance where there may simply be curiosity. We hear disrespect where there may be a child discovering their own moral compass. We hear danger where there may actually be growth. And this is where the real work of parenting begins. Because adolescence is not just a phase of rebellion, it is a phase of becoming. A child is no longer content with borrowed understanding. They are trying to build their own relationship with truth, with values, with the world around them. And this process, it requires questioning. Not because they want to reject everything, but because they want to understand what is worth holding on to. If we meet this moment with fear, we may unknowingly shut down something sacred. But if we meet it with presence, with a willingness to listen, to engage, to reflect alongside them, something beautiful begins to unfold. The child does not move away from us, they begin to walk with us differently. Not as followers, but as thinkers. Not as receivers of answers, but as seekers of meaning. And perhaps the invitation for us as parents is if we can shift from being the ones who always provide answers to becoming companions in their inquiry. Can we hold space for questions that don't have immediate answers? Can we trust that this questioning is not a breaking away, but in fact a deepening? Because when a child begins to ask why, they are not just questioning the world, they are beginning to find themselves within it. And if we can stay steady in that moment and not be reactive, not fearful, but open, we may witness something profound. Not the loss of our influence, but its transformation from authority to trust, from instruction to dialogue, and from control to connection. This is not an easy shift, but it is a necessary one. Because the goal is not to raise children who simply agree with us. The goal is to raise human beings who can think, feel, discern, and stand rooted in what they truly understand. And that journey always begins with a question. As parents, especially those who care deeply about values, culture, and character, Questioning can feel threatening. We start worrying, what if they reject what we hold dear? What if they go a different direction from what we have held for them? What if they become arrogant or dismissive? But here's something I've learned slowly, sometimes painfully, that a child who is not allowed to question does not become wise. They become compliant and sometimes confused. Critical thinking is not the enemy of values, it is the testing ground of values. Why children ask hard questions? They are not always trying to break the rules. Often they are trying to locate themselves in the world. They are asking, where do I stand in relation to what I have been given? And that is a sacred question. When we shut it down with words like, don't argue, this is how it's always been, you will understand when you grow older, we may again silence what we want to actually deepen. Silence is all we will get, not conversations. And silence is not agreement, it is often withdrawal. Respecting questioning does not mean surrendering boundaries. It means staying present when certainty dissolves. It means being willing to say, I don't know, let's think about it together. It means allowing the child to critique ideas without feeling that they are critiquing us. One of the hardest shifts in parenting is realizing that our children are not meant to be replicas of our thinking, but conscious carriers of wisdom in their own time. Critical thinking is how conscience is formed. It's how ethics move from obedience to ownership. If we want children who act responsibly, even when no one is watching, they must first be allowed to think freely when someone is watching. Of course, questioning can feel messy. Conversations may be uncomfortable. You may feel challenged, even exposed. But this discomfort is not failure, it is transformation. When a child asks, why should I do this? They may really be asking, does this have meaning beyond authority? And that is a question worth honoring. As parents, our role is not to win arguments, it is to model how truth is approached with humility, courage, and openness. So, the next time your child questions something you hold sacred, I suggest you pause, take a breath, ask yourself, is this a threat or is it actually an invitation? Because when we respect questioning, we are not loosening our roots, we are helping our children grow their own. Thank you for listening, and as always, may we parent not from fear but from trust.